Welcome to another deep dive, everybody. Today we're going to be taking a deep dive into a true giant in the Indian stock market. CDSL. I'm sure many of you have at least heard of them, but maybe some of you don't quite grasp the scale of their impact.
Yeah, CDSL, that stands for Central Depository Services. India Limited is like the backbone of the market.
Right.
They hold the securities for millions and millions of investors in India, making sure everything runs smoothly behind the scenes.
Okay, so let's unpack what we have today. We've got 3 fresh documents to dig into.
So,
Their official announcement to the National Stock Exchange. They've also got a press release with all the, highlights of how well they're doing, and a very detailed investor presentation with all the charts and graphs anyone could ask for.
and to make it even more interesting, CDSL just hit a major milestone. Over 13.5 crore DMAT accounts.
Whoa.
That makes them the first depository in all of Asia to reach that number.
Huge. That's like everyone I know who invests and then some. So what does that kind of scale tell us about CDSL?
Well, it points to their dominance in the market for sure. They're clearly the go-to choice for the vast majority of investors in India. And it also speaks volumes about the growth of the Indian stock market itself. More and more people are investing, and CDSL is right there at the center of it all.
Yeah. So it sounds like understanding CDSL is not just about one company, but about understanding like where the future of investing in India is headed.
Absolutely. And that's where these reports come in. They give us a snapshot of their current health and kind of give us hints at where they might be headed.
All right, let's get into the numbers then. Their press release was shouting about some pretty impressive figures for the second quarter of 2024.
Yes, they reported a standalone total income of 324 crore for Q2. So that means that's the income they generated just from their core operations, excluding their subsidiaries. It's a way to see how well their main business is doing.
Right.
And for the same quarter, they posted a net profit of 171 crore.
Now, for someone like me who doesn't speak fluent finance, what do those numbers actually mean in terms of CDSL's success?
They're both significantly higher compared to the same period last year, indicating very strong growth. And if we look at the consolidated report, which includes the financial performance of their subsidiaries as well, the total income jumps to 359 crore with a net profit of 162 crore for Q2.
Okay, so bigger numbers are generally better, but where's all this money coming from?
Well, CDSL has several income streams. Of course, there are the transaction charges every time someone buys or sells securities, but there's also annual income from companies that have their shares listed with CDSL, fees from IPOs and corporate actions. They even get some dividend income from their subsidiaries.
That they're not putting all their eggs in one basket, which is probably a good thing.
Absolutely. That diversified income makes them less vulnerable to fluctuations in any one area of the market.
Now, I'm looking at their financial statements here, and there's something here about a bonus share issuance impacting their earnings per share. Can you break that down for me a bit?
Sure. So earlier this year, CDSL issued bonus shares to its existing shareholders, kind of like a gift, giving them additional shares for each one they already own.
Okay.
But because there are now more shares in circulation, the earnings per share, which is the net profit divided by the number of outstanding shares, will appear smaller.
So it's not actually a bad thing, it's just that the earnings are divided up a bit differently.
Exactly. It doesn't reflect a decrease in profitability. And speaking of reassurance, the auditors have given CDSL's financial statements an unmodified opinion.
Okay.
Think of it like getting a gold star from the teacher. It means the auditors have looked at the books and are saying, hey, everything checks out. These numbers are reliable.
That's good to hear. Makes me feel a bit better about all these numbers we're throwing around. But, beyond the financials, I was really struck by this massive increase in DMAT accounts. 1.118 crore new accounts in Q2 alone. What's driving that kind of growth?
Well, CDSL credits their focus on convenience, reliability, and security. Clearly, investors feel comfortable and trusting their investments with them. And they've also been rolling out some innovative digital services.
Right, like their ECA service, which I actually use myself.
What's interesting about ECS is that it provides investors with a single consolidated view of all their investments across different depositories and asset classes. It's like a one-stop shop for your entire portfolio.
Yeah, it's so convenient. And I know they're also big on making investing accessible to everyone.
Absolutely. They even launched a multilingual chatbot to assist investors, which is a great step towards breaking down language barriers.
So it's not just about attracting seasoned investors. It's about welcoming newcomers and making them feel comfortable navigating the market.
Exactly. And that approach aligns perfectly with the overall trend we're seeing of a surge in new investors entering the Indian stock market.
Yeah. So this growth story is more than just CDSL success. It's a reflection of growing confidence in the Indian economy as a whole.
Precisely. It's an exciting time to be an investor in India, and CDSL is playing a crucial role in fueling that excitement. But it's not all smooth sailing. There are some challenges too. For example, there's this issue with an arbitral award related to Anugrah stock and broking.
Yeah, I saw that in the news. What happened there?
So essentially, a terminated depository participant, Anugrah stock and broking, was accused of misusing client securities. And CDSL was named in the claim, with allegations of negligence on their part.
Oh, sounds pretty serious. So where does it stand now?
Well, CDSL is actively contesting the award, and it's currently under consideration by the Bombay High Court. It's important to note that CDSL believes they have a strong case and expect the award to be overturned.
Fingers crossed for them. But even if they win, this whole situation raises some questions.
It does. It highlights the complexities and potential risks inherent in the financial world, even for a company as established as CDSL.
Yeah, and it kind of underscores the importance of robust risk management and due diligence, whether you're a large institution or an individual investor.
Absolutely.
We all need to stay informed and vigilant. Okay, so we've got this fascinating picture emerging. CDSL is financially strong. They're growing like crazy, but they're also operating in a complex and sometimes challenging environment.
And that's what makes this deep dive so interesting. We're not just looking at numbers, we're exploring the story behind them.
Right. And speaking of stories, CDSL isn't just sitting back and counting their money. They're actively trying to shape the market. I'm thinking of that thought leadership report they released, Reimagine Digital Trust in Capital Markets.
Yeah, that's a great example of how CDSL is positioning themselves as more than just a depository. They're thought leaders, driving the conversation about the future of finance.
And then there's their CDSL Neve at 25 campaign, which is reaching 25 cities across India, including many border cities. They're really committed to promoting financial literacy, especially among first-time investors.
These initiatives are so important. They're building trust and empowering individuals to participate confidently in the market.
Okay, before we move on, can we touch on CDSL subsidiaries a bit? They've got a few, right?
Yes, 3 to be exact. CDSL Ventures Limited, CVL, CDSL Insurance Repository Limited, CIRL, and Countrywide Commodity Repository Limited, CCRL. Each one broadens CDSL's reach and offerings in different segments of the financial market.
Okay, we'll have to dive deeper into those later. But for now, I think we've got a solid foundation for understanding CDSL's current state of affairs.
Indeed. We've seen their strong financial performance, their explosive growth, and their active role in shaping the future of the market. But that's just the beginning.
Right. There's a lot more to uncover. And remember, CDSL calls themselves the CapTech Companion. So what do you think that means for the future of investing in India? And how might it impact you as an investor or a potential investor? We'll explore that more in just a bit.
Yeah, this whole CapTech companion idea is pretty interesting. It suggests that CDSL sees themselves as more than just a custodian of securities. Like they want to be your partner in navigating the complexities of the market, using technology to make investing easier, more transparent, more accessible.
Yeah, and I'm actually seeing that play out in their investor presentation here. They're highlighting all these really innovative services that they've rolled out. There's EDs, which sounds pretty technical.
It is, but it's also incredibly useful. ED stands for Electronic Debit Instruction Slip, and it basically allows investors to make electronic debit requests securely using an API.
Okay.
So instead of dealing with physical paperwork, you can authorize debits directly from your DMAT account, simplifying things like stock transfers or payments.
So it's all about streamlining the process, making things more digital, kind of like their eMargin Pledge service.
Exactly. eMargin Pledge is another API-based service that allows investors to do online margin pledging and funding. So if you're looking to leverage your holdings for additional trading capital, this makes the process a lot smoother and faster.
Okay, cool. Now, I'm also seeing something here about distributed ledger technology, or DLT. Isn't that the tech behind cryptocurrencies?
It is. But its applications go way beyond just crypto. CDSL is actually using DLT to record and monitor assets throughout the life cycle of a secured bond. Think of it like an unchangeable digital record that tracks the bond's ownership and any transfers.
So that adds like an extra layer of security and transparency to the whole process.
Absolutely. It helps prevent fraud and ensures that everyone involved has access to the same verifiable information. And speaking of security, CDSL has also introduced in-nomination.
That one sounds a little more straightforward.
It is. It simply allows investors to fill out their nomination details who will inherit their securities online. But you know that simplicity is a game changer. It streamlines a crucial process and avoids potential complications down the line.
Okay, so I'm seeing a pattern here.
Huh.
CDSL is taking these kind of complex processes and using technology to make them more user-friendly.
Exactly, and that extends to corporate governance as well. They've developed an EGM platform that lets shareholders attend and participate in annual general meetings virtually.
That's amazing for accessibility. Not everyone could physically attend those meetings, especially if they're held in different cities.
Exactly. It's about democratizing access to information and empowering shareholders to have their voices heard.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about CDSL's core business, but can we circle back to those subsidiaries for a bit? You mentioned CDSL Ventures Limited, or CVL. What is their main focus?
CVL is a powerhouse in its own right. They're actually India's first and largest KYC registration agency, or KRA.
I've heard of KYC, Know Your Customer, but what exactly does a KRA do?
They're essentially the gatekeepers of the financial system. KYC is mandatory for anyone participating in the markets, and a KRA like CVL simplifies the process of verifying identity and address details. They act as a central repository for KYC records, making it easier for investors to open accounts and transact with different financial institutions.
So instead of having to go through the same verification process over and over again, you do it once with a KRA and everyone recognizes it.
Exactly. It saves a ton of time and makes the whole onboarding process much smoother. And that's just one of the things that CVL does. They also act as a registrar and share transfer agent, a GST Suvida provider, and they even run an academic depository.
Wow, they really do wear a lot of hats.
Yeah.
It's clear they play a significant role in the smooth functioning of various aspects of the financial market.
They do. And then we have CDSL Insurance Repository Limited, or CRL. They're all about making insurance more accessible and manageable.
Oh, so like the CDSL of insurance.
You got it. Just like CDSL holds securities electronically, CIRL allows you to store and manage your insurance policies digitally. Think of it like a demat account, but for insurance policies. You can access all your policies, life, health, motor vehicle in one place, regardless of the insurance provider.
That would certainly make things easier for me. No more digging through file cabinets trying to find that one policy document.
Exactly. It's all about convenience and transparency. And because CRL partners with numerous insurance companies, it truly becomes a one-stop shop for policyholders.
Makes sense. Now we can't forget about the third subsidiary. Countrywide Commodity Repository Limited, or CCRL. What do they do?
CCRL focuses on bringing efficiency and transparency to the commodity market. They issue electronic warehouse receipts, or ENWRs, for commodities stored in WDRA-registered warehouses. Think of ENWRs as digital representations of physical commodities like grains, metals, or energy products.
So instead of trading physical goods, you're trading these digital receipts that represent ownership.
Exactly. It makes trading commodities easier, faster, and more secure. You don't have to worry about physically transporting goods or verifying their quality. Everything is tracked and managed electronically.
I get how that benefits traders, but how does it impact the actual producers like farmers or manufacturers?
That's where it gets really interesting. These ENWRs can be used as collateral to secure loans. So a farmer who has stored their grain in a certified warehouse can use the ENWR representing that grain to get financing. It unlocks the value of their stored commodities and gives them greater access to capital.
So CCRL isn't just about streamlining trading. It's about empowering stakeholders across the entire commodity value chain.
Exactly. It's about creating a more inclusive and efficient marketplace for everyone involved.
Okay, I'm getting a much clearer picture now of how these subsidiaries fit into CDSL's overall strategy. They're broadening their reach and impact across different segments of the financial market.
They are, and that diversified approach is reflected in their financial performance as well.
Right. Let's jump back into those numbers for a bit. Their investor presentation highlights some pretty interesting trends. For instance, their operating income has been steadily increasing over the past few quarters.
Yeah, that's a positive sign. It indicates that their core business operations, those day-to-day activities that generate revenue, are running smoothly and showing consistent growth. It means they're doing what they do well, and it's translating into financial success.
And their EBITDA earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization has also been climbing. I'll admit I'm not always sure what to make of EBITDA.
It can be a bit of a mouthful, but it's essentially a measure of a company's operating profitability. It strips away things like interest expenses and taxes to give you a clearer picture of how much profit they're generating from their core operations. And in CDSL's case, the The steady growth in EBITDA suggests they're managing their costs effectively and generating strong cash flow.
So they're not just bringing in more money, they're doing it in a way that's sustainable and efficient.
Exactly. And that's reflected in their net profit as well, which has been consistently growing.
Net profit is like the bottom line.
Right.
What's left after all the expenses are paid?
Right.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate measure of a company's profitability. And consistent net profit growth, like what we're seeing with CDSL, is a strong indicator of a healthy and sustainable business model.
Now let's break down their income sources a bit further. We touched on this earlier, but it's clear that transaction charges play a major role.
Yeah, as you expect. As the number of demand accounts and transactions increases, so does their income from those charges. It's a volume game, and they're winning.
But they're not just relying on transaction fees. Their annual issuer income has also been climbing steadily.
Right. That's an important point. This is the income they receive from companies that have their securities dematerialized and listed with CDSL. It's a recurring revenue stream that provides stability and isn't as directly tied to market fluctuation.
And then there's the income from IPOs and corporate actions.
Exactly. Whenever a company goes public or issues new securities, or when there's a corporate action like a dividend payout or a stock split, CDSL earns fees for facilitating those processes.
So they've got multiple engines driving their revenue growth, which is a good sign for their long-term prospects. But you know every business has expenses. What are some of the major areas where CDSL is spending money?
Employee costs, IT costs, and administrative expenses are some of their biggest outlays.
That makes sense. They are a technology-driven company with a large workforce. But what's interesting is that their expenses haven't been growing at the same pace as their income.
That's right. That's a sign of good operational efficiency. They're able to generate more revenue without proportionally increasing their costs, which means they're becoming more profitable as they scale up.
Okay, so we've established that CDSL is financially sound, they're managing their expenses well, and their income is diversified. So what about their investor base? Who owns a piece of this success story?
Their investor base is pretty diverse, which is a good thing. It spreads the risk and makes them less reliant on any single investor group. They have a good mix of institutional investors like mutual funds and insurance companies, as well as retail investors, individuals like you and me.
Interesting. It seems like they're viewed favorably by both large institutions and individual investors.
They are, and that's reflected in the steady growth of the number of DMAT acts they manage. Their investor presentation shows impressive growth in new account openings, particularly in recent quarters.
It seems like they're attracting new investors at a pretty rapid pace.
Right.
What do you think is driving that?
Well, we've already talked about their focus on convenience, security, and technology, but there's also the overall growth of the Indian stock market itself. More and more people are seeing investing as a way to grow their wealth, and CDSL is positioned perfectly to benefit from that trend.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see how CDSL's success is really intertwined with the larger story of India's economic growth and the increasing participation of individuals in the market.
Absolutely. It's not just about one company. It's about a shift in how people view investing and their role in the financial system.
Now, before we move on to CDSL's leadership and their broader market context, I think it's important to acknowledge that while their financial performance paints a very rosy picture, we're only seeing one perspective.
You're right. Financial reports are just one piece of the puzzle. They tell us a lot, but they don't tell us everything.
Right. So, as always, we encourage our listeners to do their own research. Consider multiple viewpoints and consult with financial advisors before making any investment decisions.
Absolutely. Informed decision-making is crucial, and it involves going beyond just looking at the numbers.
Okay, so with that disclaimer in mind, let's take a look at CDSL's leadership team. Who are the people steering this ship? Yeah, I'm looking at this list of board members, and wow, some serious heavy hitters here.
Yeah, their chairperson has a stellar reputation in the financial world. Their expertise and experience are really invaluable in guiding CDSL's direction.
And the managing director and CEO also has an incredible background in central banking and market regulation.
Yeah, that's a really powerful combination. It suggests a deep understanding of both the financial markets and the regulatory landscape in which CDSL operates.
What I find interesting is that the board also includes several public interest directors. I'm seeing people with backgrounds in academia, law, and even technology.
Yeah, that kind of diversity of thought is really crucial for effective governance. It ensures that multiple perspectives are considered when making important decisions, not just a purely financial viewpoint.
So it's not just about profits, it's about responsible leadership. And they've also got a really strong executive team with experts in technology, finance, risk management, you name it.
Yeah, it's a well-rounded team. equipped to handle the complexities of CDSL's business and execute their vision.
Speaking of vision, it's clear that CDSL is not just focused on their current success, they're thinking long-term. Remember that Reimagined Digital Trust and Capital Markets report we mentioned earlier.
Absolutely. That report really shows their forward-thinking approach. They're not just reacting to changes in the market, they're actively shaping the conversation about the future of trust in a digital world.
And their CDSL Neve at 25 campaign is another great example. Reaching 25 cities across India with financial literacy initiatives is a big undertaking.
Yeah, it really speaks volumes about their commitment to inclusivity and empowering investors across all demographics. They're not just focused on the major financial hubs, they're reaching out to communities that are often overlooked.
So all of these initiatives, combined with their efforts to make their services more accessible through things like the multilingual chatbot and ECS, it really paints a picture of a company that's really invested in the future of the Indian investor.
Absolutely. CDSL is going beyond just transactions. They're building relationships and fostering trust. They understand that a well-informed and empowered investor base is essential for the long-term health and growth of the market.
Right. It's like they're saying, we're not just here to hold your stocks. We're here to help you succeed as an investor.
Exactly. And that makes them a company worth watching closely. Their journey provides valuable insights into the evolving landscape of finance and technology in India and how those forces are shaping the future of investing.
So as an investor or someone who's thinking about maybe dipping their toes into the market, what should people be paying attention to when it comes to CDSL?
Keep an eye on their ability to adapt to the rapidly changing technological landscape. How are they incorporating things like blockchain AI and other emerging technologies into their offerings? Are they staying ahead of the curve?
And what about competition? New players are entering the market all the time. How is CDSL responding to those competitive pressures?
Well, their ability to differentiate themselves through innovation and value-added services will be crucial. They can't just rest on their laurels. They need to constantly evolve and give investors compelling reasons to choose them over the competition.
And of course, their financial performance will always be a key indicator of their success. Are they maintaining their profitability? Are they continuing to grow? Those are questions investors should be asking.
Right. And as regulations evolve, how is CDSL navigating those changes and ensuring compliance? The regulatory landscape is constantly shifting, and CDSL needs to be agile and responsive.
So it's a lot to keep track of, but that's what makes investing so dynamic and interesting. It's not a passive activity. It requires staying informed and engaged.
Absolutely. And companies like CDSL are at the forefront of this evolution. It's a really exciting time to be an investor in India.
All right, well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into the world of CDSL. Hopefully, it's given everyone a solid foundation for understanding this company and its role in the market. But of course, this is just the beginning. We encourage everyone to explore CDSL's website, read their reports, and check out other resources to learn even more.
Yeah, and as always, do your own research, talk to financial advisors, and make informed decisions that align with your own goals.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into CDSL. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep investing wisely.